G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds you all well. Today we're starting with just some iPhone footage of a recent location that I went down to shoot early in the morning. Because I live on the east coast, it means that the sun rises over the ocean, so there's often a bunch of opportunities to capture some really nice images and footage. And I just wanted to create this video to not only show my process of editing that sort of content, but just also around my thought process around opportunities that I see. And I guess that's really an interesting topic that I do talk about quite often is, as a photographer and a videographer, that process of how you see the world, which I guess isn't even really a process, but just a perspective of how being in a place I look with a photographer's eyes around looking for opportunities to shoot and create content and capture, I guess, things around me. So, and that's obviously different depending on the scenario. So, situation like this, I had, about 15 minutes available time first thing in the morning. So, I went down the beach and shot some content. This was just purely my own time, but, very much when I'm doing client work, which can be, sometimes corporate events or storytelling video projects, I approach it in the same way. So looking at the world and the opportunities with that photographer's or videographer's eyes around what's going to help to tell the story or what's going to capture what it was like for me to be there. So we're obviously looking at some iPhone footage at the moment. I really wanted to show that because it just helps to kind of show the overall environment. You can see on this clip, it's looking north towards Surfers Paradise. This is at a place called Currumbin, and you can see it's a beautiful clear day. Sun's already been up for a little while, and we're just basically down the beach, down near the water's edge. Looking south with this clip in the opposite direction towards the southern end of the Gold Coast, you can see the Currumbin Surf Life Saving Club there, and then the southern tip of the Gold Coast over in the distance there on the horizon. So beautiful location and really plenty of opportunity. This clip just kind of shows the camera that I had set up. So it was a full frame camera with a 70-200. And I mean, what I love to do, I love to capture wide open, expansive landscapes, but I also really love being able to zoom in on locations as well and looking at specific areas that I can isolate with a longer lens. So that's where I was. And this particular morning, I captured a combination of stills and video. And like I said, shot all on long lens just to be able to isolate different things that I see. If we head over to Bridge, these are some of the stills. I looked at the first and last image, and I was there for a total of 13 minutes from when the first image was shot to the last image was shot, obviously not allowing for time to walk down the beach and capture where I am and set up cameras and all the rest of it. But what I always do initially is just start off with a few frames, regardless of what's in there, just to get my exposure correctly. You can see I'm just playing around with a few things. I do shoot everything manually because I like consistent exposures from image to image. And where that comes from is having to, I guess, process a bunch of files for clients quickly and efficiently. And it means that when I make an edit to one image, I can apply those same edits, assuming that we're under the same lighting, to a series of images, which, as you can imagine, rather than having to edit each image individually, it means that I can apply those edits to multiple images and, get them done super fast. So, and obviously on a day like today where the light is very consistent, now it is morning, it's early in the morning, and the light will be changing over a period of time, but within a 15-minute window, it's not going to be changing that much. So if we look at that initial exposure, so we've got 1/250th of a second, f4.5 at ISO 100, and then we go to the last image, and we have exactly the same exposure, 1/250th, f4.5 at ISO 100. You can see all of those images in between I've shot at the same exposure. Now, you can see that it is darker in that 15 minutes. It has gotten lighter from that first image to the last image, but we're in no way overexposed on that last image, and we're in no way underexposed on those first images. So I've been able to shoot this entire time without having to think about my exposure because I know that's locked away. I know it's working for what I'm wanting to capture. Everything, shadows and highlights are being retained and recorded correctly, and I'm good to go. So that's just my rationale. Now, It absolutely doesn't mean that everybody should shoot manually. I'm just saying that's the process that I've learnt from. I think it was my third roll of film. I started shooting manually and went from there and it's just developed into how my brain works and how I think about exposing photographs. So again, the lighting was pretty consistent in this scenario, so I certainly didn't have a lot of fast-changing lighting to deal with, so I was able to set that exposure. I was happy with the settings I was using given the images that I wanted to capture, and it all works. So a range of images there. As you can see, I probably shot a little bit heavy, but that's okay. I shot 176 images, but let's just go through and have a bit of a look. Start selecting some images. There was actually a couple down here that were having, I would presume, is an engagement or some sort of couple photo shoot, which was interesting. But the main, subject that I wanted to capture was this amazing rock formation with the city skyline of Surfers Paradise in the background there. It's obviously really, really interesting sort of mix between, raw nature and, a built environment. And I've shot everything on the 70-200, so that's approximately 70 mil. That's approximately heading in towards 200, and you can see I've got multiple images where I've reframed. I've waited for people to be out of the frame. Some of them I haven't worried if they're in the frame. But these are all the raw images straight out of camera. So, and obviously shooting in RAW, which is the workflow that I go with. All right, so let's just do a quick selection of some images. All right, I like that kind of position of that bird. It looks a little bit interesting. And we'll go for one without the bird. It's probably a little bit busy on the beach there. That's okay. Just gonna keep kind of scrolling through, having a look, seeing what I like. Yep, I like that one. I actually prefer it if there's less people, and well, I'm well aware that, I could certainly remove people quite easily. There's multiple different ways that you can do that. For now, I'm just looking at what is closest to what I'm wanting to capture, and with the least amount of post-production work. I always like to try and capture things in camera if I can. I probably, between these two images, I probably like this one because this person's surfboard is a little bit turned. You can see it's catching the light there. While on screen it looks very small. If this was printed at a reasonable size, it would be pretty obvious. Some great vertical images there. I'm just going to select that one as well. A little bit more zoomed out. Don't mind that one. I like the bottom heavy look as well. I tend to shoot this quite a bit, especially when you get that kind of glassy reflection, as well as the top heavy. I'll always sort of lean towards not having the subject directly in the middle. Obviously, that's a fairly well-known composition rule or approach to go for, and it does work. I'm just going to keep sort of zooming through and looking at these images. There we go, just the rocky headland there. Yeah, I'll select that one. Yeah, I don't mind that one. There was a person just in the water here at the left-hand side of the frame, just enjoying the morning. I kind of don't mind, the look of her in there. Well, it's lovely to see this couple out having a photo shoot done. It's probably not something that I want to include in any images that I'm publishing. Not because I'm concerned of anything around privacy or any of that sort of stuff. It just doesn't give the look or feel to the image that I'm wanting to go for. And looking in the other direction, as I mentioned earlier in the video, we've got a great view of Currumbin Surf Lifesaving Club. It's quite a prominent and well-known rock feature that's there as well. You can see that there's people up on the top there. You can climb up a bunch of stairs, and gives a great look out both north and south, up and down the Gold Coast. Definitely worth checking out if you're in town. It's obviously zoomed right in and then zoomed right out, which I really like. I know I've shot a lot of images, but this probably comes from having worked for for clients doing client work over the years where, when you're under time pressure, which, I wasn't under time pressure, I was just out sort of visiting the area, but I couldn't hang around all day. You kind of want to make sure you've got everything covered and you've got all the images that you want to capture. Now, this is, keep in mind, just an initial selection, so I might actually make some changes. I might deselect some. I might go looking for more. Yeah. This gentleman came and walked through the frame. I thought I'd snap off some images just to see if I'd got anything interesting. It's probably not something that I would use. Yep, but that's okay. You don't know unless you photograph and you have time to review later on. So I'm going to deselect that one and kind of like that bottom heavy one again. I kind of like that transition as well, where the dry sand or drier sand is going into the wetter sand from the waves. That looks pretty cool. I like that as well. So you can see I'm just flicking through and giving a 5-star rating to any images that are kind of standing out as images that I might like to edit and have available. Yep, that looks pretty good. Yep, that's pretty good. All right, so there are, let's have a look. I've selected about 23 images there. There's some that are kind of similar. I just usually go back through and have a bit of a squeeze. That couple's in these ones, so I'm just going to remove those. Yep, that's fine, that's good. Combination of vertical and horizontal there. Yep, that's great. And then looking south, we've got a few different images. Those two are pretty similar, so I'll probably just select one of them. There we go. There we go. Yep, brilliant. Brilliant. That's all good. Yep, happy with that. So we've ended up with 19 images, which I'm pretty happy with. I mean, I was only there 15 minutes. There's a lot of similarities between each of these images, slight adjustments of framing. So I could probably edit it down to maybe 8 or 10 images, which is fine. But I'm happy with that, with where it is. So from here, all I do is select all the images, right-click, and open Adobe Camera Raw. So as I mentioned earlier, what I really wanted to talk about in this video is just learning to see. And like I said, while, those wide, expansive landscape images can really work, I really love them. I've shot a ton of them and, there's some stunning work out there. I really love also to, with a longer lens, sort of start to isolate things. So while you might initially take the sort of wider angle landscapes or seascapes or whatever it may be, then I like to switch over to a longer lens and start to look for individual elements that I think could really work well with some images. All right, so I'm only going to do some quick edits on this one, or this series of images. So I'm just going to select them all. We're going to head up to light. We're just going to add a little bit of contrast, drop the highlights a little bit. These are fairly standard sort of edits. Bring the exposure up just a touch. I'm just going to adjust that color. I tend to get a little bit of cyan in my images, so I just like to correct that a little bit with adding a little bit of magenta. Add a bit of vibrance and a tiny bit of saturation. And as you know, there's multiple ways to add a vignette, but I'm just going to do it as a bit of a global, just a slight drop in the darkness around the edges, keep the eyes focused on the central part of the image. Let's go down to detail. I'm not going to do any denoising because it was only shot at ISO 100, so there's really not going to be any issues with any noise at all. I'm going to apply some sharpening and I'm going to mask that obviously while I hold down the Alt key because we can see where that sharpening is being applied. Obviously don't want to apply sharpening to the sky because there's literally nothing to sharpen and all it's going to do is bring in some what looks like noise. So it's good to kind of mask out your images just so that you're not getting that noise. And like I said, when you hold down your Alt key, you can see with the white outline the parts of the image where the sharpening is being applied to, and you can just use that as a slider and apply as much or as little masking as you like. So all the way to the left there's no masking, all the way to the right is the most extreme, and obviously depending on the image I just float in between. Excellent. All right. And optics, I mean, this is always ticked as by default for me, but always like to check remove chromatic aberration. And I find that does a pretty good job. And I mean, if I was going through the process where, you know, one or multiples of these images are going to be printed to any reasonable size, I would, you know, do a much finer and closer inspection of the images to make sure that there's no issues from a lens profiles or chromatic aberration perspective, any issues with the optics, and you know, obviously take steps to fix those if I need to. But at this stage, I'm pretty happy with where that's at. There we go. They're just, I guess for me, what I was hoping to capture with these images are just some nice, clean landscape that reflect the scene that I was met with. So it was just a beautiful, clear, sunny morning. You know, I'm not going crazy with my edits. As I mentioned, I try to capture everything correctly in camera, and we're good to go. All right, I'm just going to straighten that horizon ever so slightly. There we go. I'm notoriously bad with horizons. It's never been my strong point, but I'm working on it. All right, yeah, happy with all that. Happy with that. Very simple edits. Again, if I was to publish these, or more specifically, if I was to print them, then I would come back and make a closer inspection. But for now, I just want to make quick edits to make sure I'm happy with them. Which, you know, because I was pretty much on point with my exposure in camera, with where I wanted the images to be, there's really not a great deal that I need to do. You can, of course, go for a more dramatic look if you want. That's entirely up to you. The beauty of creativity is we can approach our image creation in any way that we want. Certainly, the tools for that are growing. For me, I like to take a more, as I saw it, an experienced approach. I guess you could call it record keeping or documenting the environment, even though I'm making some adjustments. But, you know, it was a beautiful scene, it was a beautiful morning, and that's what I wanted to photograph. Awesome. All right, we're going to hit done. So all of those changes are connected to the images and the raw images, and you can see Bridge is just rebuilding those previews and thumbnails. And there we go, that's all done. And now we can see those edits and changes within Adobe Bridge, sorry. And we're good to go. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, not huge edits that are required. All right, let's jump into Premiere, and you can see, once again, that's just some footage of where we were. But let's have a look at some of the footage that we captured as well. I always like to capture footage and stills when I can, particularly you know, when there's limited time available. So I've shot all of this in 100 frames a second, so you'll see it's extremely slow motion. These are just a few of the clips. Again, I'm just going to go through and select. I'm probably going to leave that one out because it's a little bit busy for me with this couple photo shoot happening. Nothing wrong with it, but just not what I'm going for these clips. Let's have a look at the next one. That was a little bit out on the edge of the rocks there. You can see that beautiful slow motion with the ocean there. Yeah, I'll leave that one out, I think. Leave that one out as well. And looking south, great view of the Surf Life Saving Club there. And again, all of my exposures, as you can see, are very consistent because I've shot manually for these as well. So there's 4 clips that I'm really happy with. There we go. Excellent. All right, and color correction. That's is going to be a very similar approach to what I did with Adobe Camera Raw and the still images. And what we can do is just make some change again, contrast, highlight control, creative. We're going to do a bit of vibrance and saturation, bit of color correction as well. Got that same sort of little bit of cyan there, a little bit of warmth. we can pop a tiny vignette in. You can see I'm using the Lumetri Color panel in Premiere Pro here. It's a great tool. Again, my approach is to always get things as correct as possible in camera. A little bit of sharpening. And then once you hit your post-production, the amount of adjustments you need to make are really minimal. All right. There we go. I've just selected that Lumetri Color adjustment, copied it, and selected the other 3 clips, and I'm just applying that to the other 3 clips. So now when we select that clip, you can see those adjustments have already been made, and then we can go through and make slight refinements. I'm really happy with that. That's a lovely clip. I can imagine that being a promotional clip for maybe Gold Coast Tourism, or, you can go and have dinner at the Surf Life Saving Club, so that'll be a great sort of representation of, the club being right on the border and opportunity for people to really enjoy those views. And slightly zoomed out version, a little bit brighter, so we're just going to bring that darkness down. Of course, we need to select the correct clip, Damien. There we go. Yep, that's good. And we can turn that on and off to sort of see those edits that we've made just by selecting the effects, toggle bypass on and off, so we can see. So you can see there's not a huge amount. As with my still images, I always shoot my footage as flat as possible. Now, I don't create log footage because the type of stuff that I do, just don't generally find that it's necessary. There's some very specific occasions when I have, but generally speaking, in a situation like this, you can see when I turn off those adjustments, it's really minimal adjustments that I'm making because I've shot correctly in camera from the word go. So that color correction is just adding to the image. There's not a great deal that needs to be done. Excellent. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. As I mentioned early on, really my aim for this video was to, I guess, get out of just purely editing and show a little bit about my process of shooting and I guess my motivation to see the world through opportunities that I can capture with my camera, just to show things a little bit differently. And shooting with a long lens definitely allows you to do that. So I hope you've found it helpful. As always, any questions are welcome in the comments below. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.